Greetings, my friends. Today we're talking about a batshit Blood Angels army list that's actually got an 80% win rate. It's 12 captains, the chapter master, the chief librarian, the herald of Sanguinius, some devastators, and a few other surprises. So let's get into this crazy weekly tactics video. So thank you so much for being here, and if you are new, my name is John, and welcome to the Blood Angels Commander channel. This list has played 30 games. Here's its wins and losses, and this is the entire list footprint. Let me move myself real quick out of the way if I can do that. There's nothing in the list. Well, there is, and a lot of it is captains. So, this is not something that we've seen before, this is not something that we've covered, but I think it's a good / interesting inspiration and something that I would love to actually play. So it's by Crozyr, a long time channel viewer and subscriber, and let's get into what the list looks like. So we've got an apothecary. He will be with a devastator squad. We've got a Blood Angels captain. We've got 3 of them, in fact, all infernal pistols, power fists. We've got 3 more captains, one with a scout enhancement. Now what's really interesting is that means he can start inside the impulsor to give the impulsor a scout move. The impulsor can use its scout move, and then in turn 1, your other 2 captains here and 3 Blood Angels captains can all move 6 and embark. So your impulsor will be 6 inches forward, ready to make a hopefully 18-inch advance with now 6 captains inside it. We also have 3 Gravis captains, one of which is coming back to life. Because he's got the ordained sacrifices. Angelic Inheritors, I should have said that earlier. We've got Mephiston, we've got Dante, we've got 2 of those new Death Company captains, one of them is the Warlord, and we've got the Sanguiner. A unit of Intercessors for some stickiness, Impulsor, which we've just talked about, the Devastator squad with that Apothecary, so we can bring those guys back to life, and also because they're attached to a character, we reroll hits and wounds of 1. That is what Angelic Inheritors do. So every character unit, which there are boatloads if you haven't realised that are hitting and wounding on 1s. Inceptor squad. So the cool thing about Angelic Inheritors is up and down. They can get sustained. They're twin-linked anyway. So they can probably be your Oath of Moment target, because pretty much everything else in the list is going to be likely hitting on 2s because they're all characters re-rolling 1s. A unit of scouts, obviously they're here for scoring. And then we also have another captain, the Death Watch captain, Artemis. He's also coming back to life on a 2-up. So this is just something absolutely crazy. And it's not something we've really ever seen. This many characters. Angelic Inheritors makes sense for this many characters, because it's hard to put into words. Let's talk about my first impressions when I saw the list, right? Like, you've got 15 characters. They're not leading anything, so it's all reroll hits and wounds of 1. 9 of them have Rites of Battle, so 9 of them are potentially going to be able to reduce your CP cost. So guess what? You're probably going to have a few extra CP in this list, because you're going to have 9 captains to choose every turn to use a command point on for free. That's a lot of grenades every turn, right? 6 captains of Finest Hour, so a lot of those captains have devastating wounds. I mean, you can pop all 6 Finest Hours in the same turn if you want, so all 6 captains come flying out of that Impulsor. They all pop Finest Hour. That's like 48 attacks, I think. Rerolling 1s to hit, rerolling 1s to wound with dev wounds. 2 damage a swing. We have sticky objectives. And obviously our 6 captains in the Impulsor. Literally, no one will know how to play against it. I mean, it's bonkers. The Inceptors are strong in Assault in Angelic Inheritors. They can also return to reserve. The Las Cannon squad will have revives and lone operative. Mephiston and the Sanguiner are just much better in Angelic Inheritors v Lag, because they build in reliability to their hits and wound rolls. The Sanguiner can heroically intervene whenever he needs to be. And we're going to fall back and shoot and charge everywhere, because that's what Angelic Inheritors thrives on. So, yeah, if I was going to say, if this is at all interesting to you, subscribe and leave a like. If it's not, leave a dislike. So let's talk about like some of the strengths. Practically everything in the list will have a 4-up. Normally Blood Angels don't have invulnerable saves, so this is pretty big. 2 characters are going to get back to life. The Gravis Captain and Artemis. the opponent is going to have to split his fire all the time because he's going to have to calculate how much fire he needs to shoot to kill captain after captain after captain because there's no squads. So they're basically going to have to guess which 4-up will trigger and which one won't. So you force your opponent into difficult decisions every single time they're shooting because it's like target saturation and every target is a character, and you know yourself, when you split fire you end up leaving things alive, and that's generally bad. It's a stat check to a certain degree to see if your opponent has enough to deal with all the different characters. In terms of activations, you have extreme MSU, right? Like, because every single guy is basically an MSU. So you've got about 20 individual units. They've got annoying profiles. You've got stuff like Gravis halving damage. You've got Feel No Pains from Death Company. You've got 4-ups on everybody. So you just make it super difficult for your opponent to calculate what they're actually going to kill. Your damage output can actually be extreme as well, because you've got like 6 captains, right, that can all go a finest hour. They can do that all in the same turn. That's 48 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, strength 8, AP 2 damage, rerolling 1s, and dev. I mean, with 40 attacks, if you put them all into the same unit, you're going to be re-rolling some 6s based on the fact that your chance to hit is 97% when you hit on 2s, re-rolling 1s. So statistically, if you're rolling 48 dice, you should get about 9 6s before you re-roll 1s. So potentially, if all 6 captains go into the same target, that's 18 dev wounds. That's pretty useful, right? They can combine their strength. Avengers Assemble, that's what he called the list, actually. I don't think I wrote that, but yeah, he called it Astartes Assemble. So if they combine their list, they can bring down a big knight, just with the devastating wounds alone. And they can come at the opponent in waves. And remember, you don't have to declare all the finest hours at the same time. You could do 2 finest hours, spike some mortal wounds, and be like, well, do you know what? The other 4 captains will save their finest hour. You're going to actually need some tokens. You're going to have so many finest hours, you're going to need some tokens to remind who's using finest hour and who's not. There's some solid threat for ranged as well, and that the Devastators can potentially shoot and be untargeted. The Inceptors can potentially shoot with sustained, go back into reserve. And then obviously the Devastators can loan up with an 18, but you can loan up the Inceptors, or you could pre-measure and put them in really obnoxious places. The way you would have to loan up the Inceptors is more difficult in that you've got to pay a CP on them to make them a character unit. And I think you can only do that in the command phase, so that is a bit more difficult. But pre-measure where you're putting in your Inceptors, kill a target, make it super difficult for your own opponent to return fire, then put them back into strategic reserve with the uppy strat for 1 CP. You're not going to need too many CP elsewhere because all those captains, and you're probably not going to need a massive amount of red rampage. You might want it somewhere, but I think with the sheer volume of attacks that you're going to have from all the characters, you're maybe not going to need red rampage. There's more strengths, right? So rerolls of hits and 1s and wounds make your damage quite a bit more reliable. I guess, so I've played Inheritors a lot, and if you were going into anything with basically T8 or less, this list is going to murderize it. It's going to struggle a little bit against like Knights or stuff with a lot of T9 and higher, but T8 and less with those rerolls is going to be bonkers. Anything T4 is just going to absolutely melt based on lethals, devs, and rerolls, right? I think even T7 and less is just going to get melted. You're equipped to handle tougher bodies, and you can often fight them across multiple rounds, right? Like, Crozyr actually beat Knights 3 times using this list. I suppose Knights would actually struggle a little bit with their firepower because they can't split. Like, if you have a big Avenger Gatling cannon that kills like a whole squad of Assault Intercessors, it's not super effective just shooting at a single one captain. It's much less effective than being able to shoot at like a captain plus 10 guys, right? So like you actually make it difficult sometimes with some of their shooting in that they wouldn't know what to declare against. You can have bonus CP basically every battle round. So that's you know 5 uses of grenades. That's going to cost you nothing because you've just got so many captains on the board. I mentioned this. Yeah, you start the one captain with the Impulsor with a 6-inch enhancement, so he can move the Impulsor forward with a scout move. All 5 other captains can then follow up behind and all get inside, and then you can drive on towards the middle of the battlefield. What's interesting about this is you can potentially watch your opponent deploy half their army, because that would be like 6 drops just for you to deploy the Impulsor, because you deploy the Impulsor and then Drop 2 is another captain, drop 3 is another captain, drop 4 is another captain, drop 5 is another captain, drop 6 is another captain. So you've only basically deployed your Impulsor, and they've deployed half their army. Maybe, I mean, if it's knights, they've deployed just about everything, right? Taking fixed against this, he thinks is a trap. Sure, they'll score 20 assassinate points by round 2. But that mean you'll get challenger cards for the rest of the game. And their secondary objective will force them to come to you and put things on objectives, which is exactly what you want them to do. And if you draw a display of might, that will always brighten your day, because you will just have about 10 captains in the middle of the board, and you won't even have to move everything. You'll just instantly score 5 points. It's going to have some weaknesses, though. Every list does. We don't have a lot of OC here, right? We have very limited range capabilities. We're reliant on somewhat slow captains connecting charge. Sometimes opponents can kite you. Advance and charge only works so well when you literally have one. You can only use it on one captain rather than a whole squad, right? The 4-up Invuln save is usually awesome. They go both ways, right? Like, Blood Angels often don't have Invuln saves, so this is nice. Too many high toughness units with strong melee can be challenging. I mean, I think this is a general problem that Blood Angels have, and too high toughness can be very difficult for us to deal with. The Inceptors certainly help. Untargetable unit of Laz Devastators certainly help as well. And then 8 finest hours. You need that to do a bit of work, right? Sometimes interrupts or fight first or on death can be dangerous, but you can play around it with clever positioning. I need to actually see... I think I need to try this. Like, I've actually been wanting to come back and make a Blood Angels list, and right before I started filming this video, I was actually looking in my drawer, and I was like, do I have 6 captains on foot? Because this wasn't the list that I was wanting to build, but when I actually started looking at it, I was like, wow, this list looks just bonkers and fun. And fun is something that I'm trying to do right now in the channel a little bit. Explosions are hilariously terrifying in that, like, if there's a big explosion you could potentially wipe hundreds of points from your army. I mean, that happens anyway with Blood Angels, right? Like, sometimes big explosions are bad. There's not too many auto explosion stratagems, but there is some. More dangerous opponents are those with multiple fast, dangerous, long-range shooting units. Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any lone ops here, right? But why I decided to make this video, right? Because I think the current meta can scare Blood Angels players away. And I think it did scare me away a little bit in that, like, I just couldn't beat Death Guard. I just couldn't beat Knights. So I like the idea that when you're in a meta like that and you just can't get the win, or you just don't know where you're going, people in our community, Crozyr in this situation, has thought outside of the box. And it's so valuable to have that outside perspective, and he's created an 80% win rate army, which is incredibly difficult to do right now, that no one would have thought or predictive, right? Like, nobody thought that you could run this many captains, and it could be no one thought you could run this many captains, get a single win, let alone 80%. So I love it, and I feel like I need to get another captain or two. Let me look at what he's actually beat real quick, because we didn't cover that in very much detail. So Eldari, 4-0. Blood Angels, he's beating Blood Angels mirror matches. He's beating Nids. He's beating Dark Angels, which I just lost to this weekend with Wrath of the Rock. They're ridiculous. Necrons are very strong. Imperial Agents not so strong. Custodes are a difficult one for Blood Angels to deal with as well. So are World Eaters. Grey Knights are in a bad place right now, I feel like. But Chaos Knights are strong. Black Templars are strong. Space Wolves are very strong. Votan are just getting their new codex, so it's hard to dig too deep into that. But Knights are super strong at the moment, and it's 2-2. Thousand Suns and Chaos Demons. I sometimes have trouble against those. But I think overall, that's a very strong, interesting, fun list. That's why I wanted to cover it. I think if you see me in one of my hobby streams in the next week or something, making some captains, you're going to know why. This wasn't quite the list that I had on my radar. I was thinking of going and building some Liberator Assault group, but I think this looks really fun, and I think I appreciate you. I love it when people in the community share stuff with us that is interesting and different and gets us all thinking about what we can do next and what is 40k if not supposed to be fun, right? And I think this is fun and crazy. I actually really want to try it. So, if you haven't seen the video I put out on Wednesday about my worst GT performance ever, It's an interesting video, I guess, if you want to learn a little bit more about the Stormlance attachment. That's what I was doing for fun. I'm now ready to jump back into a Blood Angels detachment after my like 2-month break on Stormlance. I did enjoy Stormlance. I do recommend, if you've never played Stormlance, you can have fun with it. But if you're wanting to have fun with Angelic Inheritors, then why not try 15 captains, or 12 captains, the chapter master, the chief librarian, and the sanguiner. If you're going to buy some of the new releases this week coming, I think it's the Votan. You could use Element Games in the UK, or you could use Wargame Portal in the US to get 15% off, and it does support the channel. I appreciate that. Or you could support me on Patreon for a couple of bucks a month. There's various links in the description that help out. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I will see you in next week's Tactics video, my friends. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.